When Mark Uptain set out on a routine guide expedition, he never knew it would be the last time he would kiss his wife and children goodbye. That day, he would encounter two fearsome grizzly bears and be faced with a horrible choice: save himself or his client. Corey Chubon, a man based in Florida, had finally caught up with his tour guide, Mark Uptain, on September 13, 2018. Chubon wanted to go elk hunting, and Uptain was to be his guide in the area. While many animals find Florida to be a haven, free-ranging elk are not one of them. A long journey should be considered by anyone merely thinking about hunting these animals. It was precisely this that Corey Chubon had done prior to choosing the Bridger-Teton National Forest in Wyoming as the ideal site for a sow hunting expedition. The Bridger-Teton National Forest spans over 3.5 million acres in western Wyoming. From Yellowstone National Park to the southern border with Idaho, this massive national forest forms one of the longest stretches of its kind in the United States. Pine, aspen, fir, willow, and grass trees adorn the scenery, and the area is home to a wide variety of animals, including grizzly bears, bison, coyotes, cougars, elk, and moose. For some, these creatures are an annoyance and even a threat, but for others they are an asset. They transform the area into a veritable paradise. That could be the reason why both locals and visitors to Wyoming love it so much. Drawn by its renowned wildlife, wilderness, and wild and scenic rivers, and seeking assistance in navigating this vast wilderness, Chubon enlisted the expertise of Mark Uptain, a seasoned 37-year-old guide from Jackson, Wyoming. Mounted on horses, Chubon and Uptain ventured deep into the forest on Thursday, September 13, 2018, their eyes peeled for elk. After a patient search, they finally spotted a bull elk. Chubon took aim, but his shot, unfortunately, only wounded the animal, which fled into the unknown before they could track its exact path as night fell. Undeterred, they regrouped the following day, Friday, September 14, 2018, and resumed their quest. A noticeable blood trail led them to the lifeless body of the bull elk around 1 p.m., untouched by predators. Tying their horses nearby, they began the meticulous task of field dressing the elk for transportation. As they worked under the warm afternoon sun, Uptain, feeling the heat, decided to remove his shirt and chest holster, the chest holster containing his 10mm Glock. Little did he realize that in discarding this crucial safety measure, he would soon face an unexpected and dire situation. As they diligently worked on field dressing the elk, a sudden noise caught their attention, a sharp clattering of rocks echoing through the forest. In a heartbeat, two grizzly bears materialized from the downhill, charging towards them. The larger of the two, an adult female accompanied by her yearling offspring, thundered towards the men, who instantly erupted into terrified shouts. Without hesitation, the adult female bear lunged at Uptain, attacking him with ferocity. Caught in a moment of sheer terror, Corey Chubon knew that retrieving Uptain's discarded Glock was their only hope. Despite the chaos unfolding before him, Chubon managed to locate the semi-automatic handgun some 5 to 10 yards away. Yet, as he aimed to defend against the raging bear, he faced insurmountable challenges. The grizzly's erratic movements thwarted any clear shot, and when Chubon finally had an opportunity to fire, he discovered, to his horror, that the Glock malfunctioned. It simply wouldn't fire. As Chubon desperately tried to manipulate the Glock slide, he glanced around and noticed the yearling bear lingering back, showing little interest in joining the attack. Despite his efforts, the handgun remained unresponsive. Adding to his dilemma, Chubon was unfamiliar with the Glock's operation. In a sudden shift of focus, the adult bear abandoned Uptain and turned its attention towards him. The bear charged swiftly, seizing Chubon's right boot in its powerful jaws. causing him to stagger and lose his balance. In a frantic attempt to distract the bear and aid Uptain, Chupon hurled the handgun towards his guide, who was bravely shouting at the bear. However, the throw fell short, failing to reach Uptain. Aggravated by the commotion and movements of the two men, the bear redirected its aggression towards Uptain once more. Seizing the moment, Chupon realized his only chance for survival lay in escaping to seek help. He fled from the harrowing scene, his last glimpse of Uptain etched in his memory, standing defiantly against the charging bear. Chupon navigated the rugged terrain for about 400 yards until he reached their tethered horses. Untying both animals, he swiftly mounted his own horse and rode furiously towards higher ground, aiming to find a location with better cell phone reception to call for urgent assistance. Around 4:30 p.m., Piton County Sheriff's Office dispatch received Corey Chupon's frantic 911 call, signaling the urgent need for rescue. Responders swiftly mobilized, and within 2 hours a helicopter reached Chupon's location in the Bridger-Teton National Forest. Time was of the essence, as they understood that each passing minute diminished the chances of Mark Uptain's survival. As dusk settled, rescuers initiated a search for Uptain, but the fading light hampered their efforts. They reluctantly suspended the search for the night, planning to resume at first light the next day. Tragically, on September 15, 2018, Uptain's lifeless body was discovered approximately 50 yards uphill from the initial attack site. Examination of Uptain's body revealed grievous injuries consistent with a vicious bear attack, bite wounds on his hands, wrists, arms, upper thighs, and right shoulder. Nearby, they found an empty bear spray canister, indicating Uptain had attempted to deter the bears during the attack. The presence of multiple types of bite marks suggested both the adult sow and its cub had participated in the assault. Evidence suggested that Uptain had briefly managed to deploy the bear spray, prompting the bears to briefly relent. Despite his efforts to retreat uphill, his injuries proved too severe. Uptain succumbed near the base of a tree, where he ultimately passed away. Following an analysis of the bear attack, authorities made the decision to locate and euthanize the bears involved. Several compelling factors influenced this choice. Firstly, prior to the attack, investigators found no evidence that the bears had been guarding a food source, such as the elk carcass. They ruled out the typical scenario of a mother bear protecting her cub. Moreover, it was established that the bears had approached Corey Chupon and Mark Uptain rather than the men approaching them, indicating an unprovoked aggression likely driven by the bears' instinctual drive to feed on the elk carcass. In response, Wyoming Game and Fish Department personnel deployed non-lethal traps at the attack site. They successfully captured the yearling bear alive, which was subsequently euthanized due to its involvement in the fatal attack. The sow, which had charged at law enforcement officers during the retrieval process, was also shot and euthanized at the scene. This decisive action aimed to mitigate further risks to public safety posed by these bears. Mark Uptain, who tragically lost his life in the attack, left behind his wife and 5 children, whose ages ranged from 10 to 17 years old. But there's a lot more to the Mark Uptain case than the story we've just told you. Since the news of Mark Uptain's story first broke, I've immersed myself in every available piece of information, from articles to official reports and online discussions. It's been a journey through a spectrum of viewpoints, theories, and attempts to make sense of a tragedy that many see as inexplicable. Yet amidst these efforts, there's a troubling trend I've noticed: the dismissal of questioning and alternative viewpoints as the Monday quarterback fallacy. This notion suggests that if we weren't present, we have no right to speculate or critique the decisions made. This attempt to stifle discussion echoes a mentality akin to shoot, shovel, and shut up, a refusal to engage in meaningful dialogue about what happened and why. It's reminiscent of many people's experiences with wildlife services, an agency known for its defensive posture rather than transparent dialogue with the public. Such avoidance only shields those who may deserve scrutiny. Unfortunately, comprehensive accountability from agencies like the WYGF and the mainstream media's coverage has left much to be desired in shedding light on what truly transpired on that mountain. From the outset, WYGF has maintained a puzzling assertion that the sow involved in Uptain's attack was behaving unusually. This idea, which defies common sense, seems aimed more at casting bears in a negative light than understanding their behavior relative to humans. Despite its persistence in WYGF's latest report, this notion wasn't challenged by the press, including the Jackson Hole Daily. Ironically, WYGF's own recent findings suggest the bear's actions were entirely predictable given the circumstances. After ruling out predatory motives, the report identifies typical defensive triggers for grizzly attacks: protecting food, offspring, or personal space. According to the report, the incident was likely motivated by the bear's desire to feed on the elk carcass. The term desire used in the report opens a window to a deeper understanding of the bear's behavior. Uptain and Chubon discovered the elk carcass after tracking a blood trail, saturating the area with scent cues of death well before their arrival. This context suggests the bear's perceived possession of the carcass began with the scent of death. Each encounter with physical remnants of the elk reinforced this possession until the men and the carcass came into view, triggering a defensive reaction likely rooted in protecting her food and personal space. Despite these nuanced insights, WYGF and sympathetic media outlets persist in promoting the narrative of an aberrant bear. This narrative not only risks misguiding public perception, but also threatens bear conservation efforts and safety protocols in bear habitats, undermining confidence in the agency's transparency and accountability. Like many others concerned about both human safety and wildlife, I hoped subsequent reporting would be more probing and address other critical questions raised by the investigation. Unfortunately, these questions not only remain unanswered, but have become more pressing as WYGF appears eager to move past the Uptain tragedy. Curiously absent from the reporting is perhaps the most crucial question of all. Why did the SAR team, consisting of 2 SAR personnel and 1 game warden, depart the scene without confirming whether Mark Uptain was deceased? The report attempts to address this issue through various explanations, but none would likely reassure Uptain's family or supporters. One suggested reason was Chubon's belief that Uptain had not survived the attack. However, it would be overly cynical to suggest this belief alone dictated the SAR team's actions, hence why it's mentioned briefly. The report also notes logistical reasons from a supplemental report. After evacuating Chubon, the SAR helicopter needed fuel and returned to base, causing the mission to pause until the next day due to darkness. The rest is history. Mark Uptain's case is perhaps one of the more puzzling attacks out there. While we've been told what happened, a lot of it doesn't add up. What do you think really happened? Let us know in the comments below. And if you want to watch more bear attack content, check out this video.